Persian Gulf airspace, 3:06 p.m. Broad daylight. Clear skies, clean horizon, no weather to hide behind. 6 United States Marines were aboard an MV-22 Osprey, flying a routine transit corridor used regularly during Allied coordination missions. The aircraft maintained steady altitude and speed, its flight path logged and visible to regional air traffic monitors. Nothing about the profile suggested aggression. Then Iranian ground-based radar systems shifted modes. Tracking beams locked. Target solutions calculated. Within seconds, Iranian interceptor aircraft were scrambled, vectors converging toward the Marines' aircraft with unmistakable intent. In Tehran, the decision was framed as enforcement. Commanders argued that asserting control in contested airspace would send a signal of strength without triggering war. They believed the Americans would divert, retreat, or comply once challenged. 6 Marines, 1 aircraft, limited window. The optics mattered more than the outcome. Force a reaction. Capture proof. Show regional dominance. The calculus assumed restraint from Washington. That assumption collapsed the moment hostile intent became clear. As Iranian interceptors closed distance, automated systems inside the Osprey activated. Encrypted distress packets transmitted precise coordinates, altitude, velocity, and threat vectors to multiple command nodes simultaneously. US Central Command received the alert in real time. Naval task groups, air patrols, and intelligence platforms already operating in the region pivoted instantly. The timeline compressed. What might have taken hours became minutes. The Marines on board did not wait for instructions. They were reconnaissance operators trained for contested environments. Communications were clean, disciplined, and continuous. Defensive countermeasures were initiated. Threat assessments updated second by second. The aircraft maintained course while buying time, knowing help was already moving. At 3:10 p.m., American fighter aircraft altered headings and surged toward the intercept zone. Rules of engagement authorized protective action against any system actively threatening U.S. personnel. Electronic warfare platforms flooded the spectrum, blinding hostile fire control radars. Iranian targeting solutions degraded rapidly, forcing their interceptors into hesitation and confusion. Iranian commanders now faced a decision point: disengage and lose face, or press forward and escalate. They chose escalation. Air defense units remained active. Missile batteries stayed online. Command and control nodes continued transmitting. That choice sealed the outcome. At 3:12 p.m., precision strikes began. American munitions neutralized Iranian radar arrays directly responsible for the intercept. Antennas collapsed. Control vehicles burned. Communications went dark. The sky remained clear, the impacts visible from miles away. Within moments, the immediate threat to the Marines was eliminated, but the response did not stop there. Washington's logic was simple. The interception was not an isolated act. It was enabled by infrastructure. Infrastructure would be removed. By 3:14 p.m., strike packages expanded their target set. Intelligence assets mapped Iranian military installations that supported the attempted intercept, airfields hosting interceptor squadrons, logistics hubs supplying air defense units, command centers coordinating regional operations. 9 bases were identified as critical nodes. The objective was not punishment, it was denial. Cruise missiles and precision-guided munitions arrived nearly simultaneously. Runways were cratered. Hardened shelters collapsed. Fuel depots erupted into controlled fireballs. Radar domes vanished. Each strike was deliberate, timed, and confined to military targets. No warnings, no negotiations. The message was delivered in steel and fire. Iranian command channels fractured under the speed of the assault. Orders conflicted. Units attempted to disperse too late. Air defenses that remained functional were overwhelmed by electronic suppression. The operational picture disintegrated. In less than 10 minutes, Tehran's ability to conduct further hostile actions in the region was effectively erased. At 3:22 p.m., with the threat fully neutralized, escort aircraft formed up around the Osprey. The 6 Marines remained calm, systems intact, mission discipline unbroken. They were recovered without injury, their aircraft unscathed. No American casualties, no losses. The encounter ended as quickly as it had begun. In Tehran, state media rushed to frame events as defensive measures against provocation. Statements were issued, narratives adjusted. But satellites do not argue. Imagery showed destroyed installations, silent airfields, and blackened command centers. The timeline was undeniable, 22 minutes from intercept to collapse. The strategic lesson resonated far beyond the Gulf. Hostile action against American service members does not remain tactical. It becomes strategic immediately. The response is not symbolic. It is decisive, proportionate, and final. Broad daylight, fully observed. 6 Marines were intercepted. 9 military bases were gone. The balance was restored, not through restraint, but through certainty. Never assume distance provides safety. Never mistake restraint for weakness. And never test American resolve by threatening its Marines, because the clock starts the moment you do, and it does not stop in your favor. The aftermath unfolded in silence, but the damage was already irreversible. As the smoke columns rose from multiple locations across Iranian territory, command networks struggled to reconstitute situational awareness. Radar coverage had collapsed. Airfields were unusable. Logistics chains were severed mid-operation. What had begun as a calculated interception spiraled into a systemic failure of regional military control. Iranian commanders attempted emergency coordination, but degraded communications left units isolated and blind. Aircraft remained grounded without fuel or intact runways. Missile batteries stood inert, stripped of targeting data. The very infrastructure meant to deter foreign presence had become the reason Tehran lost operational credibility in a single afternoon. Meanwhile, American forces maintained overwatch without further escalation. The objective had already been achieved. The threat was neutralized. The environment stabilized. Naval traffic resumed. Allied aircraft continued routine patrols, now uncontested. The 6 Marines, safely extracted, were already en route to debriefing facilities, their mission complete before it was ever meant to begin. In Washington, the assessment was clinical. No rhetoric, no victory speeches, just confirmation that deterrence had functioned exactly as designed. When American personnel are threatened, the response is immediate, integrated, and overwhelming. Not emotional, not symbolic, structural. The global reaction followed quickly. Regional allies absorbed the implications in real time. Military analysts replayed satellite feeds frame by frame. Timelines were scrutinized. From first radar lock to final strike, 22 minutes. No ambiguity, no hesitation. The message was understood even where it was not publicly acknowledged. Iran's public narrative shifted repeatedly over the following hours. Initial claims of defensive success gave way to vague statements about routine drills and foreign exaggeration. But commercial satellite imagery told the story without interpretation. Destroyed radar arrays, cratered runways, blackened fuel depots. Silent bases that had once projected power now stood as static reminders of consequence. More telling than words was what did not happen next. There was no retaliation, no counterstrike, no escalation. Iranian naval units remained in port. Air patrols ceased. Missile forces went dark. The region entered a period of calculated restraint, not out of diplomacy, but out of recognition. Strategists understood why. The interception had not failed because of bad luck. It failed because it misunderstood the system it challenged. American military response is not linear. It is layered, automated, and time-compressed. Once triggered, it does not ask permission. It executes. 6 Marines never fired a shot. They did not need to. Their presence alone activated a chain of decisions already embedded across commands, platforms, and doctrines. The outcome was never about the aircraft or the airspace. It was about the principle that American personnel are non-negotiable. Across the Gulf, the lesson settled in quietly. Geography offers no shield. Proximity offers no advantage. The clock favors those prepared to act, not those hoping to intimidate. What Iran attempted as a controlled signal became a demonstration of asymmetry it could not match. Broad daylight ensured there were no shadows to hide the truth. Every movement was visible, every strike documented, every consequence recorded. History would not remember the intercept itself. It would remember the 22 minutes that followed. 6 Marines were threatened. 9 military bases disappeared. No declarations of war were issued. No negotiations were required. The balance shifted because it had to. And long after the smoke cleared, the rule remained unchanged. You can challenge policy. You can test borders. But the moment you threaten American Marines, the response is already in motion. The outcome is not debated. It is delivered.